The car was still running in the driveway when the police lights came on behind him. He had just pulled over for a moment. The engine was on, the seatbelt still fastened, and he reached for his phone to check a message. It felt harmless. It felt like something he had done 100 times before. But in that moment, something small had already turned into something official. What surprised him was not the stop. It was the explanation. Because the rule he had just violated was not something he remembered learning, not something anyone had clearly told him had changed. That moment, where your everyday habit suddenly becomes a problem, is what more drivers are starting to run into now. My name is Sarah, and I have spent years watching how rules change quietly and then show up in people's lives when they least expect it. I have seen careful, responsible drivers get caught off guard simply because the system around them changed faster than their habits did. I am here to walk you through this so you do not find yourself learning about these rules in the worst possible way. Because these changes are not always announced loudly. They do not always come with a warning. They show up in the form of a ticket, a notice, or a moment that leaves you confused. And here is the part most people stop listening before they get to: do not make that mistake. The law is not just changing. The way it is being enforced is changing even faster. And that is where most people get caught. I want you to take a breath with me for a second. This is not about fear. This is about understanding the system the way it actually works today, not the way we remember it from years ago. Because once you understand that, you start seeing the road differently. Now let me explain something most drivers never think about. When you drive, you are not just following road signs anymore. You are interacting with a network. Your license is stored with the Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, the agency that manages your driving record. Your vehicle is tied to registration databases. Your movements can be observed by traffic cameras, license plate readers, devices that scan your plate automatically, and enforcement systems that are connected across cities and states. That means one small action can move through multiple systems almost instantly. A camera captures it, a system processes it, a notice is generated, and it becomes part of your record before you even realize something happened. Stay with me, because what I am about to explain next is the thing most people only understand after they receive their first unexpected ticket. The first major change that is catching people is distracted driving. People still think this means texting, but in many states now, it means something much broader. Holding your phone, looking down at it, adjusting it in your hand, even for navigation. The system does not ask why you were holding it. It only records that you were. And here is where people feel frustrated, because in their mind, they were being careful. But the rule has shifted from intention to action. The next change is speed. For years, people understood that a small buffer existed. A few miles over the limit felt acceptable. But automated enforcement does not see it that way. It measures, it records, and it applies the rule exactly as written. No conversation, no warning, just a result. And here is the part most people stop paying attention to. Do not skip this. The third change is happening at intersections. Rolling stops, quick turns, moments where you slow down but do not fully stop. These are now being captured more consistently. The system is not asking if you looked both ways. It is asking one simple question. Did the vehicle come to a complete stop? If the answer is no, the violation is recorded. Let me tell you about someone I will call Kevin. Kevin drove the same route every day. He knew every light, every turn. One morning, he made a right turn on red the way he always had, slowing down, checking, and continuing. A few weeks later, he received a notice. That intersection now had camera enforcement, and what he thought was normal driving was now considered a violation. Now I want to be clear. I share stories like this so you can understand how these situations happen in real life, not to identify any one person. And I want to pause here and say something that many people feel but do not always say out loud. Driving is built on trust. Trust in your habits. Trust in what you learned. Trust that what worked yesterday still works today. So when something changes quietly, it feels like the system changed the rules without telling you. That feeling is real. But once you understand how things are actually working now, that feeling starts to fade. Because awareness replaces surprise. And that is where control comes back. Now let me walk you through more of what is changing, because this is where people start recognizing their own situation. School zones are being monitored more consistently, often with cameras that operate even when you do not see them. Construction zones now carry heavier penalties, and those penalties are applied more strictly. Seatbelt laws in some states now apply to every passenger, not just those in the front. And here is something many people overlook completely: license plate visibility. Even something as small as a frame covering part of your plate can now trigger a violation in certain areas. And then there is something even more subtle: insurance and registration verification. Some systems now scan plates and automatically check whether your vehicle is properly registered and insured. You may not even realize there is a problem until a notice arrives. Let me tell you about someone I will call Maria. Maria had switched insurance providers. She believed everything had been updated correctly. But there was a delay in the system. Her plate was scanned. The system flagged her as uninsured. Days later, she received a notice. She had done the right thing, but the timing in the system created a problem. Now I want to be clear. Stories like this are shared so you can recognize the pattern, not to identify any specific person. And here is something I want to say directly to you. If you drive every day, this applies to you. If you take the same route, this applies to you. If you rely on driving for your work, your family, your daily life, this applies to you even more, because these changes do not show up all at once. They appear piece by piece. And here is the part most people are grateful they stayed for, because this is where you take control. First, start noticing the small things. New signs, cameras, markings on roads you already know. Second, keep your phone completely out of your hands while driving, even for a second. Third, make full stops at signs and lights, even when the road looks clear. Fourth, double-check your insurance and registration to make sure everything is active and correctly recorded. Fifth, open and respond to any notice you receive instead of setting it aside. Now, I need to say something clearly, because I have seen too many people fall into this. There are scammers sending fake traffic violation messages. They look official. They sound urgent. They ask you to click a link and pay immediately. But real violations do not work that way. If someone pressures you to act fast and pay online without verification, that is a warning sign. And here is the perspective I want to leave you with. The road has not changed, but the system around it has become faster, more connected, and more precise. What used to depend on chance now depends on systems that do not miss much. That does not mean you should feel anxious every time you drive. It means you should feel informed, because informed drivers avoid problems before they begin. So take a breath, pay attention to what is happening around you, and adjust in small ways that protect you without stress. I read the comments carefully, and if you want to share your situation or ask something specific, you can write it below. I will do my best to help you understand what applies to you so you are never caught off guard.